Hi, I'm Jarrad Brown, Australian expat financial planner based here in Singapore. Welcome to my video series. Here we tackle the tough personal finance questions for Aussies all over the world. And today we've got a beauty. Today we're going to have a look at, are men or women better when it comes to managing money? We've all heard the saying, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Yes, we're different, and the same holds true when it comes to how we manage money. There's plenty that we can each learn from each other. So today we're going to dive into a wide range of topics, different areas of personal finance, have a look at who perhaps performs better, which gender is superior when it comes to certain elements of personal finance, and what we can learn from each other. So let's dive right in. So the first area of personal finance to address is retirement savings and retirement planning. So here we're looking at the long-term goals when it comes to personal finance and being able to focus on the long-term horizon. Now, when we look at the studies, particularly the US studies, we found, or the data shows, that of those earning between 50 and 75,000, so sort of the middle income bracket, we see about 80% of women participate in retirement plans and retirement savings, while only just over 60% of men do. When we bump that up into the higher income brackets, so 75,000 US and above, those numbers improve a little bit, but still we see the same trend continue. Here we found that 86% of women participate in those retirement plans, while only 70% of men participate in those same plans. So what does that tell us? Well, it really tells us, and a lot of the other studies support the same hypothesis, that women are far better at focusing on the long-term goals, seeing the long-term horizon, and really focusing on achieving those long-term outcomes. So men, we need to take a bit of a leaf out of the women's books here and focus on those long-term plans and learn how to stay on track with them. The second area of personal finance to look at is personal spending. Now here we're not looking at just spending on necessities on a weekly basis, but more the splurging, impulse buying, etc. Now the studies here support that 24 to 25% of women can't resist a sale, whereas when men were asked the same question, that was between 4 and 5%. Now that's obviously going to be different in different countries, but the studies tend to show fairly similar results. We saw a similar sort of set of data points when we look at impulse buying, impulse spending. We found that on average, women outnumber men 2 to 1 when it comes to that impulse buying decision. So what the studies support here is that men spend a lot more time weighing up the pros and cons before making any purchasing decisions. What does this mean? Well, it means that perhaps on average, women can learn from men here that we need to take a bit of time, slow down with the purchases if we're shopping online, which is naturally becoming more and more popular at the moment. Pop it in the shopping cart, wait 24 to 48 hours, think about whether you really need or want whatever you're looking to buy before actually proceeding with that purchase. The third area of personal finance to look at is bad debts. Now, the whole buy now, pay later phenomenon or trend is a little bit new to get some really accurate data points, and particularly in terms of arrears or any defaults on payments. So here we're really just looking at credit cards and personal loans. Now what the data suggested here is that men are far more likely to have more than one credit card and use it on a regular basis. Now, just to point out here and make sure that the data is clear, we're not talking about corporate cards or work cards. These are just personal credit cards. And what the studies also found is that women felt on average that if they had more than one credit card, it would be more difficult to control the spend. So what does all of this mean? Women are probably far better at resisting the urge to take on more and more bad debt, and are better at tracking that spending when it's on credit. So what can we learn here? Perhaps it's time to trim down the number of cards we have, reduce the number of personal loans and bad debts, and make sure that it's under control. The next area of personal finance to have a look at is investment risk. So here we're talking about how much risk men and women take on when it comes to their retirement investment portfolios. So for a lot of Australians, that's going to be our superannuation or our pension in some countries. Now, what the studies found here is that women are typically holding a much greater allocation to defensive assets, whereas men are far better at taking on more risk. And here we're talking about suitable risk as well. One of the areas that the studies has identified is that women, particularly in their 20s and even in their 30s, are often not taking on enough risk to really achieve their long-term financial outcomes. So men really need to be awarded first place here when it comes to being more comfortable with that volatility. Naturally, something to learn, I think, for women out there is to really just make sure, particularly when it comes to your retirement portfolios, that they're built to last. Understand that time will flatten volatility, make sure you're comfortable with the risk, but make sure that you're taking on enough risk to really get to where you'd like to be. The next area of personal finance to have a look at is debt perception. Now, debt, we're talking about loans and leverage. Now, there have been some interesting studies on this one, and we're not just talking about who takes on more debt, but the actual perception, the feelings that are associated with having loans and taking on leverage. Naturally, leverage can be a great tool, a very powerful tool, in terms of really generating serious wealth over time. Now, it's not a recommendation to go and take out debt. Naturally, consider your own goals and circumstances, but it can be a very powerful way to achieve your long-term financial outcomes. Now, studies over the years released by Men's Health and a number of other bodies have found that women are far more likely to be upset about gaining weight than they are by being in financial trouble associated with debt. Whereas for men, the exact opposite was true. For men, we're far more likely to be upset about being in financial trouble due to debt than we are when it comes to gaining weight. Now, perhaps that comes as no surprise, but when we delve a little bit deeper into the studies, what was also identified was that women were far more likely to seek out professional advice and help when it comes to mapping out a strategy when it comes to debt and if they get themselves into financial trouble. Whereas for men, whether it's bravado or something else, we prefer to sort of stick our head in the sand, not seek out professional help, and potentially make the problem even worse. So here I think there's really something to be learnt for both genders. Naturally, men, we need to ask for help, we need to ask for direction a bit more. I think it's something that's been improving over the years. And for women, perhaps we need a little bit more comfort around utilising leverage as part of the wealth creation strategy. So all things considered, who is the superior gender? Look, to be honest, I don't think there really is a clear winner, but I think there's a great deal that can be learned for both. Play to your strengths, be aware of your weaknesses. Not all weaknesses need to be improved. Seek out professional help when needed, and just make sure that you have a well thought out, suitable financial strategy, and that you know exactly what you're working towards. If you have any questions, please do drop them in the comments. I hope that's been helpful. If it has, please do remember to subscribe, hit the notifications. Really appreciate you tuning in, and see you next time.